was that? What's the emergency?
He's trying to kill me. Please help.
The desperate voice of 26-year-old Charnice Brown pierced through the dispatcher's headset. It was March 8, 2021, just one day after her birthday. What followed would haunt everyone who heard the call. The sounds of struggle, desperate footsteps, and finally, a single gunshot. In those terrifying moments, 6 children played outside, completely unaware that their lives were about to change forever. This is the story of how a mother's trust in the wrong person led to a tragedy that shook an entire community. It's a story about love, control, and the devastating consequences of domestic violence that often hide behind closed doors. Before we continue with this powerful story, take a moment to subscribe to True Crime Watch HD. We bring you cases that serve as crucial warnings about the red flags we often miss. Your subscription helps us reach more people with these vital stories that could save lives. Born on March 7, 1995, Charnice Brown discovered her purpose early in life, caring for others. As a certified nursing assistant at Meadowmere Southport, she quickly became known for her gentle touch and unwavering dedication to her patients. But it was motherhood where Charnice truly found her calling. As a young mother of 4, she mastered the delicate balance between career and family life. Her social media painted a picture of joy, dancing with her children on TikTok, helping with homework, creating memories that her kids would forever cherish. Despite the challenges of raising 4 young children while working full-time, Charnice approached each day with determination and infectious optimism. But everything changed in the summer of 2019 when she met 49-year-old Rhiannon Brownlee at a local community event. The 25-year age gap raised concerns among her family and friends, but Charnice saw something different in Rhiannon. He presented himself as mature, stable, and ready for a serious relationship. What she couldn't have known was that beneath this carefully crafted facade lay a history of violence spanning decades. Their relationship moved quickly, perhaps too quickly. Within months, they were living together, blending their families. Charnice's 4 children and Rhiannon's 2 created a household of 6 young lives, ages 4 to 11, in their Lincoln Park neighborhood home. From the outside, they appeared to be building a beautiful life together. But beneath the surface, something was wrong. Rhiannon's insecurities about their age difference began manifesting in ways that would prove devastating. His need for control started subtly, questioning her work schedule, making unexpected visits to her workplace, demanding immediate responses to his texts. I want you to pause for a moment and think. Have you ever noticed these behaviors in a relationship? Either your own or someone close to you? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your perspective could help someone recognize these warning signs before it's too late. Charnice's once vibrant social media presence began to fade. Friends noticed she was withdrawing from social activities. Her confident smile appeared less frequently in photos. The woman who once danced freely with her children on TikTok was becoming increasingly cautious about every move she made. The accusations of infidelity started small but grew into an obsession. If a patient's family thanked her for care provided, Rhiannon would demand to know if she was flirting. When she worked night shifts at the nursing facility, he would call repeatedly to verify her presence. Each unanswered text message fueled his paranoia. Each male co-worker became a suspected lover in his mind. But it was October 2019 when the true nature of their relationship revealed itself in violence. October 2019 marked the first documented instance of physical violence in Charnice and Rhiannon's relationship. During what started as a typical argument, Rhiannon's control escalated into a brutal assault. He repeatedly struck Charnice in the face, back, and ribs with such force that she was forced to flee to a neighbor's house for safety. When police arrived, they found Charnice trembling, her body covered in bruises. She filed a detailed statement about the attack, her hands shaking as she documented every blow. But like many victims of domestic violence, she later withdrew her statement. Court records would reveal that Rannan had threatened severe consequences if she pursued the case, while simultaneously promising to change if she dropped the charges. The Kenosha County DA's office had no choice but to dismiss the case. This incident, however, wasn't an isolated event. It was a turning point. Rannan's behavior became increasingly controlling, his accusations more frequent and intense. Phone records obtained during the investigation revealed a disturbing pattern of surveillance that would make anyone's skin crawl. On a typical workday, Rannan would send dozens of text messages demanding immediate responses. "Where are you? Who are you with? Answer your phone." These messages would flood Charna's phone throughout her nursing shifts, making it increasingly difficult for her to focus on patient care. But it was the consequences of not responding that truly revealed the depth of his control. One particularly haunting incident occurred when Charnice was caring for a critical patient. For 15 minutes, just 15 minutes, she couldn't answer her phone. In that brief span, Rannan sent 47 messages. The progression of these texts painted a chilling picture of his deteriorating mental state. "Why aren't you answering? You must be with someone. I'm coming to your job right now. Don't make me do something crazy. If you're cheating, you'll regret it. Answer me or watch what happens." When Charnice finally responded, explaining the patient emergency, Rannan's tone shifted dramatically. "Baby, I'm so sorry. I just love you too much. I'm afraid of losing you. You're my everything." This cycle of threats, followed by apologies, became a recurring pattern in their relationship. His surveillance extended far beyond her workplace. Rannan began tracking the mileage on Charna's car, meticulously calculating the distance between her home, work, and the children's school. Any unexplained mile became evidence of supposed infidelity in his mind. He would drive by the children's school during their events, watching from his car to ensure Charnice wasn't talking to any male parents or teachers. The children, though young, weren't blind to the changing dynamics in their home. Court records would later reveal heart-wrenching testimonies from the older children about how they'd noticed their mother crying more frequently. Charnice would quickly wipe away her tears and distract them with games or stories, always putting their emotional well-being before her own. Despite the mounting tension, Charnice worked tirelessly to maintain normalcy for all 6 children. She continued organizing family activities, helping with homework, and ensuring each child felt equally loved and supported. The text messages recovered from her phone showed countless late-night conversations with friends, sharing her fears about the relationship while simultaneously expressing hope that things would improve for the sake of the children. In early 2021, Charnice began making subtle moves toward independence. She researched larger apartments, looking for a fresh start. She opened separate savings accounts for each of her children's education. Her online searches revealed inquiries about advancing her nursing career. These weren't just dreams. They were carefully laid plans by a mother determined to build a better future for her family. But Rannan's awareness of these small steps toward independence seemed to fuel his paranoia. His accusations became more frequent, his monitoring more intense. He began using the children's attachment to each other as emotional leverage, frequently reminding Charnice how devastating it would be to separate their blended family. The text messages during this period revealed a man increasingly losing his grip on reality. Every male co-worker became a suspected lover. Every late shift was viewed as an opportunity for betrayal. Every moment Charnice spent with her friends or family was seen as a potential threat to his control. What made this surveillance particularly unsettling was how Rannan would gather intimate details about Charna's daily activities. He knew which patients she cared for, which co-workers she spoke to, even what she ate for lunch. This level of monitoring required dedicated effort and planning, suggesting his obsession with control had become all-consuming. As March 2021 approached, Chana's friends and family noticed subtle changes in her behavior. She began documenting Ranan's behavior in a password-protected note on her phone. She saved screenshots of his threatening messages. She confided in her sister about her growing fears, asking her to keep an eye on her social media activity as a safety measure. These actions suggest that Chana was beginning to recognize the danger she was in. But like many victims of domestic violence, she faced the impossible challenge of planning an escape while maintaining an appearance of normalcy to avoid triggering her abuser's rage. March 7, 2021, would be Chana's 26th birthday. The photos and videos from that day show a young mother surrounded by love, dancing with her children, blowing out candles, and sharing moments of pure joy. But behind the smiling faces and birthday decorations, Ranan's behavior cast a shadow over the celebrations that no one could have predicted would darken into tragedy just hours later. As Chana's 26th birthday celebrations wound down on March 7, 2021, the tension in her home began to build. While her children played with their new toys and finished the last pieces of birthday cake, Ranan's behavior grew increasingly erratic. Security footage from their apartment complex captured him pacing in the parking lot, repeatedly checking his phone, and making several trips to and from his car, actions that would later take on a horrifying significance. Throughout the evening, Ranan's demeanor shifted between extremes. One moment, he would join in the family celebrations, even offering to take photos of Chana with her children. The next, he would retreat to a corner, obsessively scrolling through her phone, searching for evidence of imagined betrayals. Every birthday message she received became a source of suspicion. Every call from well-wishers triggered an interrogation. What nobody knew at the time was that Ranan had already begun implementing a calculated plan. Security cameras captured him making several trips to his car that evening, though the poor lighting made it impossible to see what he was moving. Investigators would later discover that during these trips, he was strategically placing weapons around the property, a detail that transforms his actions from jealous behavior into premeditated preparation. As night fell, the messages on Chana's phone took an ominous turn. Phone records revealed a barrage of increasingly threatening texts from Ranan, each more disturbing than the last. "You played me all weekend. I know what you've been doing. Have fun tonight like it's your last. You're saying the state can have my kids. Life is over to me. I don't care what happens anymore." At this point in our story, I need to pause for a moment. What we're about to discuss reveals critical warning signs that everyone needs to recognize. If you haven't already, please take a moment to subscribe to True Crime Watch HD. Your subscription helps us share these vital stories that could save lives. Hit that notification bell to ensure you never miss a video that could make a difference. But it was one particular message that sent chills down Chana's spine, a reference to something deeply personal and painful. "Your balloon release party is coming." This wasn't a random threat. Chana's family had recently organized a balloon release ceremony to honor her brother, who had been murdered in Michigan. By referencing this family tragedy, Ranan demonstrated not just anger, but a calculated intent to cause emotional harm. When questioned later about this message, Ranan claimed it wasn't meant as a threat. However, phone records show that immediately after receiving this message, Chana made several frantic calls to family members. She understood exactly what Ranan was implying. She would be the next family member they'd be releasing balloons for. As March 8 dawned, Chana went through her morning routine with an underlying sense of dread. She got the children ready for school, packed their lunches, and kept up a brave face. Neighbors reported seeing her standing at her window multiple times throughout the day, her expression tense and worried. She made several calls to domestic violence hotlines, though she never stayed on the line long enough to complete the intake process. Text messages recovered from her phone reveal she spent part of that day researching emergency shelters and domestic violence resources. She began gathering important documents: birth certificates, social security cards, school records, actions that domestic violence experts recognize as classic preparation for escape. But Rannan's surveillance never wavered. Throughout the day, he continued his pattern of showing up unexpectedly at their apartment. Each time, he had an excuse. He forgot something, he needed to check on something, he was just passing by. Each visit lasted only minutes, but security footage would later show him moving items between different locations during these brief appearances. By late afternoon, Charna's anxiety had reached a breaking point. She sent a series of texts to her sister that read like a countdown to disaster. 2:15 p.m. He's acting strange today. 3:45 p.m. If anything happens to me, you know who did it. 4:30 p.m. I'm scared but trying not to show it for the kids. 5 p.m. He says he's leaving for work, but his car is still here. At 5:15 p.m., Charnice made what would prove to be a fatal mistake. She sent the children outside to play in the front yard. Neighbors later testified that she stood at the window watching them, her face etched with worry. What she couldn't have known was that this decision, meant to protect the children from witnessing any confrontation, would leave her alone with Rannan. The security footage from these moments tells a haunting story. The children can be seen playing, their laughter a stark contrast to what was about to unfold inside. Rannan's car remained in the driveway, despite him telling the children he was leaving for work. The camera captured him moving quickly between shadows, avoiding the windows where the children might see him. At 5:19 p.m., Charnice sent her final text message to her sister: "Call the police if you don't hear from me in 10 minutes." 1 minute later, surveillance footage shows the children still playing, completely unaware that inside their home, their mother was about to make a desperate call to 911. The timestamp on the 911 call reads 5:21 p.m. In the background of Charna's desperate plea for help, the sound of children playing outside can be heard, a detail that would later haunt everyone who listened to the recording. These precious seconds would mark the beginning of a horrifying sequence of events that would unfold with devastating speed. The 911 call that began at 5:21 p.m. would capture the final 2 minutes of Charnice Brown's life in excruciating detail. The recording, later played in court, left even seasoned law enforcement officers shaken. The dispatcher's voice remained steady as she asked for Charna's location, but what followed would haunt the emergency response team for years to come. 911, what's your emergency? He's trying to kill me. Please help. What's your location? Lincoln Park Apartments. Please hurry. The terror in Charna's voice was palpable as she desperately tried to provide her location. In the background, the dispatcher could hear the sounds of a violent struggle beginning to unfold. The recording captured the horror in real time: furniture crashing, running footsteps, and Charna's increasingly desperate attempts to escape. Crime scene investigators would later reconstruct the brutal sequence of events that transpired in those final moments. The attack began in the bedroom, where evidence suggested Rannan had been lying in wait. Blood spatter analysis revealed that Charnice had initially tried to defend herself, raising her arms to shield her face from the first knife attack. The struggle moved from the bedroom into the hallway, leaving a trail of overturned furniture and bloodstains that told the story of her desperate fight for survival. As Charnice attempted to flee, Rannan pursued her through the apartment with methodical determination. The crime scene revealed that she had managed to reach the living room, knocking over a lamp in her struggle to reach the front door. Blood evidence on the door frame showed she had almost made it to safety when Rannan caught up with her. The most chilling aspect of the crime scene was the evidence of premeditation. Investigators discovered that Rannan had strategically hidden weapons throughout the apartment earlier that day during his suspicious visits. The knife used in the initial attack had been concealed in the bedroom. But it was the shotgun, hidden near the stairwell, that revealed the true extent of his planning. The medical examiner's report detailed the horrific nature of the assault. Charnice sustained multiple stab wounds to her head, neck, and upper body, each one indicating the frenzied nature of the attack. Yet somehow, despite these injuries, she continued fighting for her life, managing to make it to the exterior stairwell of the building. It was on these stairs that neighbors heard Charnice's final plea. "No, please. The kids are outside." Even in her last moments, her thoughts were with her children, desperately trying to protect them from witnessing the violence. The shotgun blast that followed echoed through the neighborhood at precisely 5:23 p.m., just 2 minutes after her initial 911 call. The response from law enforcement was swift. Officer Luke Cordier was the first to arrive on scene, pulling up to the Lincoln Park apartments just moments after the fatal shot. The scene he encountered was one of stark contrasts, the peaceful sounds of children playing mixed with the aftermath of violence. With no way of knowing if the shooter was still armed and dangerous, Officer Cordier made the split-second decision to enter the building immediately. As he approached the stairwell, Officer Cordier found Rannan standing over Charnice's body, both weapons still in his possession. When commanded to drop the weapons, Rannan complied without resistance. His only words upon arrest were chilling in their simplicity. "She made me do this." The immediate aftermath of the shooting presented law enforcement with a heart-wrenching challenge. While securing the scene and beginning life-saving measures for Charnice, they also had to ensure the children remained unaware of what had happened. Officers quickly established a perimeter, using their vehicles to block the children's view of the stairwell where their mother lay. Detective Sarah Martinez, who specialized in cases involving children, arrived minutes later and immediately took charge of caring for the 6 kids. She would later testify about the devastating moment when she realized these children were still playing, laughing, and completely unaware that their entire world had just shattered. Despite the rapid response of emergency medical services and the desperate attempts of first responders to save her life, Charnice Brown was pronounced dead at the scene at 5:42 p.m. The official cause of death was listed as multiple stab wounds and a shotgun wound to the upper back, but the full medical examiner's report revealed the true brutality of the attack: 27 separate stab wounds before the final shotgun blast. The crime scene processing took over 18 hours, with investigators meticulously documenting every detail of the tragedy. They recovered both murder weapons: the kitchen knife, its blade bent from the force of the attack, and the shotgun, which Rannan had purchased just 3 weeks earlier. They also discovered a notebook in Rannan's car containing what appeared to be a detailed surveillance log of Charnice's daily activities, further evidence of his obsessive control and premeditation. In the days that followed, the Lincoln Park community struggled to process the tragedy that had occurred in their midst. Neighbors who had heard the shooting but didn't intervene were haunted by questions of what they could have done differently. The first responders who worked the scene would later require counseling to deal with the trauma of what they had witnessed. But it was the 6 children, suddenly motherless, who bore the heaviest burden of this senseless violence. Child psychologists would later testify about the profound impact of not only losing their mother, but also learning that their family's structure, the blending of 2 families that Charnice had worked so hard to build, was forever destroyed by an act of domestic violence. The trial of Rannan Brownlee began 6 months after Charnice's murder, drawing national attention to the issue of domestic violence. The evidence presented in court painted a picture not just of a tragic murder, but of a calculated, premeditated act of violence that had been building for months. Prosecutors methodically laid out their case, presenting over 2,000 text messages, surveillance footage, and testimony from dozens of witnesses. The text messages alone took 3 full days to review in court, revealing the escalating pattern of control and threats that preceded the murder. Each message thread revealed a new layer of psychological abuse that had worn down Charnice's defenses over time. Perhaps the most compelling evidence came from Charnice herself, through the voice recordings she'd left on her phone in the weeks leading up to her death. She had begun documenting Rannan's behavior, almost as if she knew what was coming. In one recording, dated just 2 weeks before her murder, she whispered into her phone, "If anything happens to me, please make sure my babies know how much I loved them. And please make sure they know none of this was their fault." The children's testimony, though not delivered in person but through recorded interviews with child psychologists, left an indelible mark on everyone in the courtroom. The oldest child, just 11 at the time, described how they had heard their mother's screams but thought it was just another argument. "We were used to him yelling at her," the child said, "but we never thought he would actually hurt her." Before we continue with the trial's outcome, I need to pause for a moment. If you're watching this video and recognizing similar patterns in your own life or someone you know, please know that help is available. Subscribe to True Crime Watch HD and hit the notification bell. We regularly share resources and information that could save lives. Your subscription helps us reach more people with these crucial stories. During the trial, forensic psychologists testified about the calculated nature of Rannan's actions. The placement of weapons throughout the house, the timing of the attack when the children were outside, and even the choice of location for the final confrontation all pointed to careful planning. The prosecution argued that Rannan had used his age and experience to manipulate not just Charnice, but the entire system, exploiting her previous withdrawal of charges to create an illusion of stability. The defense attempted to paint a picture of a man driven by passion and jealousy, arguing for a lesser charge of second-degree murder. However, their argument fell apart under the weight of evidence showing premeditation. The notebook found in Rannan's car contained not just surveillance notes, but what appeared to be a detailed plan written days before the murder, including the chilling note, "She'll never leave me for another man." After just 4 hours of deliberation, the jury returned with their verdict: guilty of first-degree intentional homicide. As the verdict was read, Rannan showed no emotion, maintaining the same blank expression he'd worn throughout the trial. When offered the chance to speak before sentencing, his only words were, "I'm sorry it had to end this way." The judge's sentencing statement became a powerful indictment of domestic violence. "Mr. Brownlee, you didn't just take a life," the judge declared, "you orchestrated the destruction of an entire family. You robbed 6 children of their mother, you destroyed their sense of safety, and you shattered their trust in the very concept of family." The sentence was decisive: life in prison without the possibility of parole. But the story of Charnice Brown didn't end with Rannan's sentencing. Her death sparked significant changes in how Kenosha County handles domestic violence cases. The district attorney's office established new protocols for cases where victims withdraw charges, implementing mandatory review periods and victim advocacy services. The Charnice Brown Foundation, established by her family, now works to help domestic violence victims escape dangerous situations, with a particular focus on helping mothers with children. They've already assisted dozens of women in finding safe housing and legal support, turning their tragedy into a mission of prevention and hope. The 6 children, now in the care of their respective families, are receiving ongoing therapeutic support. Their story has become a powerful testament to both the devastating impact of domestic violence on children and their remarkable capacity for resilience. The oldest child, now a teenager, has begun speaking at schools about recognizing the warning signs of domestic abuse. As we conclude Charnice's story, it's important to recognize that domestic violence rarely begins with physical abuse. It starts with control, with isolation, with seemingly small demands that grow into overwhelming restrictions. The age gap between Charnice and Rannan, while significant, wasn't what doomed their relationship. It was his need for control, his inability to trust, and his decision to respond to his insecurities with violence. The tragedy of Charnice Brown reminds us that domestic violence doesn't discriminate. It can happen to anyone: healthcare workers, dedicated mothers, beloved community members. The warning signs are often visible in retrospect, but can be difficult to recognize when you're in the midst of it. Her story also teaches us the importance of taking threats seriously. When Rannan mentioned the balloon release party, it wasn't just a cruel reference. it was a clear death threat. When he tracked her mileage and monitored her phone, it wasn't love, it was control. When he used the children's relationships with each other as leverage, it wasn't about family, it was about manipulation. Today, a small memorial garden stands outside the Lincoln Park apartments, planted by neighbors in Charnys' memory. Every March 7th, on what would have been her birthday, the community gathers there to release balloons, not in mourning, but in celebration of her life and as a reminder to remain vigilant against domestic violence. Charnys Brown's last birthday should have been a celebration of life, of motherhood, of her dedication to caring for others. Instead, it became a testament to the devastating consequences of domestic violence. Her story serves as both a warning and a call to action, to recognize the signs, to speak up, and to act before it's too late.